On this episode, I tease George.
I mean, certain things you just can't account for random players popping up with
17 points on your bench.
Points. Correct, yeah, thanks again for mentioning that.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 20. Hello, welcome to episode 20 of the DraftCast. This time, we have the manager for Ajax Treesdown, George, with us. How are you doing, George?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Glad to be asked back for a third time, my hat-trick appearance.
Yep, glad to have you back. I'm looking forward to your segment that you've brought with you this time. We are going to discuss the results for game week 31, and we'll look ahead to game week 32. So, as always, we'll start with the league table. There's quite a bit more movement this week than we've had over the last few weeks, I'd say. The big news is Tolly taking second place.
Yeah, well, I think you've got it spot on. That's the big news story. But maybe more cynically, I'd have pitched it as the dropping of Morris from the top two, which, I mean, 8 weeks ago nobody would have predicted. I don't think he looked like he was flying. So that is definitely the biggest story.
Yeah, we've had Rich coming off the bottom spot. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. Granted, it's only 1 point, but those two are definitely going for who's going to get the wooden spoon at the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Having had some experience of being at the bottom myself, it was nice to get a bit of respite. So, congratulations to Rich on that one.
And unfortunately, myself and Lawrence dropping down below Jim.
Yeah, well, Jim had a particularly good week, 64.
He did. Best score of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, he does a fair amount of chirping in the group, so it is nice to see that he's backing that up with a performance this week as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure Will won't be happy with the lowest score, but I think he's had quite a few times as the lowest score of the week. If you were to tally them all up,
feast or famine, I think, for Will. So, yeah. And I guess that in conjunction with Tolly having quite a few good weeks on the bounce has meant that he's slipped down to third. And actually, he's only 7 points ahead of Jack, who had a good week last week as well. Looking ahead, I think Jack might have some favourable fixtures potentially this week. See that Liverpool have got the Villa, so sorry, that was last week. Liverpool have got
Leeds,
which could be 7-4 playing against Leeds. You have no idea, so you'd bank on Salah scoring a few points there. So if I was Will, I'd be getting nervous after such a sterling legacy. Well, I've heard a lot about his previous 2 wins, so it would be a shame if he dropped out of the top 3.
Yeah, and with those two getting through to the DBF Pokal Cup in a few game weeks' time, it's going to be interesting to see if Jack's form maintains and Will's stays low, or if it ends up swapping. We'll have to wait and find out. But who's your money on out of those two at the moment for the final?
Oh, it's a good question. I think in big games you've got to back your big players, and Will's got 2 of them. So Harry Kane and Bruno Fernandes are the two biggest point scorers, or 2 of the top 3 biggest point scorers. So it'd be difficult to back against them, I think.
Fair enough. Will be happy with that, I'm sure. Talking of players, let's have a review of your team from this week. Not a bad score.
Yeah.
42, bang on average.
There's equally there's something that stands out, I feel, from my squad of 15 this past week, which is the Northern Irish superstar that is Stuart Dallas. I guess I feel like I should explain my logic with him being last on the bench, and that was that I did think Leeds might get a bit of a thrashing at City, which would perhaps render him with a few minus points. But I think he's proven that it needs to be you need to sort of play the risk against the reward, and -2 would be nothing compared to the 17 points that he would have brought to my team. So,
Yeah.
I mean, potentially he could have, if he'd been ahead of Josh Madger on the bench, he would have increased my total to 58, which turns it from an average week to a very good one.
Definitely. Yeah. He was going to be my first question to you. So you've hit the nail on the head there. One of the other things I was going to ask is you seem to be doubling down on your Arsenal players. Every time I look at your team, you've got a lot of Arsenal players.
Yeah, well,
but
I found
it's working for you now, I guess. It's
yeah, to an extent. It seems that depending on who plays in their Europa League fixture in midweek can generally give you a good clue about who's going to play at the weekend. So I bought Pepe in because having seen that Aubameyang, I think, got the flu, and Pepe hadn't really played in midweek, it seemed obvious that he was going to get the start against Sheffield United. Likewise with Lacazette. So took a bit of a gamble, but it did work this week with those two getting 19 points between the two of them. But I guess the biggest takeaway from this week is that Neto, who I think had been my top scorer to this point, the Wolves sort of winger, he's out for the rest of the season. So that's a big void to fill, I think, for the rest of the year. Yeah, I mean, to this point, I've been relatively fortunate with injuries. To an extent, not had too many, so it's I guess everyone's due at some point. But yeah, that is a bit of a pisser.
Yeah, it's always a shame when someone gets injured, but especially if they're out for the rest of the season. It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only saving grace is it does give that a certain amount of closure, whereas I wouldn't want to be in Lawrence's position where he's sort of constantly clinging on to the likes of Jimenez coming back at some point. At least they've announced that he's out for the year, so I can cut ties, unfortunately, and try and get somebody else in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So you're talking about getting someone else in. Who have you got lined up? So we're recording this before the waivers go through, but for those watching, you'll be able to see George's team after the waivers. So it'll be interesting to see that who you say you're going for, you actually get.
Yeah, it's a good point. I can see that you're obviously trying to put me into a false sense of security because you're picking a couple of spots ahead of me. So actually, it shouldn't make any difference.
I'll pinky promise, George.
Unless...
whoever you say, I won't put on my list.
Good thinking. Okay. So I'm after a midfielder, obviously, to replace Neto, and Christian Pulisic has seems to have started a few more games, seems to have won the manager's favour over again, but I think he'll probably be gone by the time that I pick in sixth place. So I've also put Alan Saint-Maximin in there, who likewise I think he might be gone by the time I pick, unless I've missed any.
He'll be on James's top list, I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine so. And so perhaps a bit of an outside bet, somebody who goes under the radar is Giovanni Lo Celso of Tottenham, who has started the last 3 games and done relatively well, albeit Spurs themselves aren't doing brilliantly. But they've got a double game week this week, and he's the only real, I guess, semi-attacking threat that sort of would be included in that double game week. So even if it's a 1 week loan, it might be worth getting him in for the chance of two games in a week.
Yeah, no, definitely sounds like a good plan.
But yeah, like you say, once the podcast goes out, people might be ridiculing it. So I'll sit on the fence.
We'll have to see, and maybe you'll end up making some others behind the scenes, and they'll appear on the on your team sheet.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Something I've been doing recently is chatting with the guests that come on the pod about the upcoming fixtures and the ones that they would, if you look at the fixtures now, which one are you most likely, or are you looking forward to watching the most, should we say?
Okay. So in the Premier League this coming weekend. I obviously at the moment am very much enjoying watching West Ham play
For sure.
because they're actually winning games. They seem to keep scoring 3 goals and then making it incredibly nervous. So, so that's something to look forward to. Although, actually, the Friday night football might be quite interesting. And again, selfishly, from a West Ham point of view, I'd be keen to see the result because Everton and Spurs are 2 teams who still harbouring top 6 aspirations. So, if potentially a good score draw between those 2 would keep them away from West Ham, but also present quite a good game. So yeah, the Friday night football stands out, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one. There's quite, like you say, there's quite a few what you would call favourable matchups, I suppose.
Yeah, and actually looking at my team, there is a few that stand out as being good ones. So I've got Luke Shaw at home to Burnley. The Arsenal guys, who I've seen to have got a lot of, they're at home to Fulham, and then got a Wolves defender at home to Sheffield United as well. So hopefully can get some more points and keep me within distance of the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, that'll be good because we didn't touch on this earlier, but there is still only sort of 50 points, sort of between 2nd and 8th, a bit more than that, but it's all still to play for. I think for the medal positions, Tom is way ahead now and doesn't seem to be slowing down, or at least he's maintaining decent scores every week. So catching him up would take something special, should we say?
Yeah, definitely. I think your first point on the league still being really close is really good. I mean, obviously I'm new to it this year, but I think there was points probably in the first sort of 10 to 12 weeks, especially when I was rock bottom, where I thought, it's sort of all over, or there's a big gap appearing that seemingly would only get bigger. But it's very cyclical in terms of which teams do well each week. And I mean, certain things you just can't account for. Random players popping up with
17 points on your bench.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks again for mentioning that. Yeah, but I think even on a positive point, the week or the game week that sort of got me in reasonable contention for sort of a top 3 finish was tripling up on Brighton players in a game that they had when there was very few games.
Yeah.
And as a result, I managed to sort of shoot up the table with a bit of a risk taken. So yeah, the fact that it's close and people are moving up and down all the time is very good.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, because I remember talking to, I believe it was Tom at the time, about your risk for that. It was game week 29, wasn't it? It doesn't seem to have sort of damaged your team moving forward either. You seem to have bounced back, got players back in to keep it going. So hats off to you for the risk and maintaining some form after.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's there's no real risk. I mean, it's all in good fun. So as much as much as you dare to throw caution to the wind, then why not? Especially when at this stage it looks like I'd have a very outside bet of finishing top. It's whatever you can do to get creative, which makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. Well, the next bit would be your segment.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sort of struggled this week to come up with, I guess, something different, something original, because we've been through the stats and we've been through the numbers probably time and time again to see who's done what's gone well, what's gone badly. So in conjunction with your fantastic new Instagram segment, the top 5s, I've decided to have a little play around my own top 5 podcast.
Well, let's I'm going to put it out there, George, that you inspired the top 5. You told me what you were doing, so you've inspired that. I've got to put it out there. I'm not going to steal your idea and not claim it as my own.
Hey, listen, you've got the trademarks, you've got the intellectual property, so happy to contribute.
Yeah, but we will put a little jingle for the start of this one as well.
Yeah, well, that's part of where this inspiration came from. Is I do consume a fair amount of podcasts on my commutes to and from work or football or wherever it is. So, and one of the good segments that a couple of my podcasts do is a sort of sporadic top 5 of things that have loosely linked to the subject matter.
Yeah.
Which usually come with a friendly jingle. So I thought, as looking for a quick segment, which is fairly breezy, then a top 5 would be good.
I like it.
So hopefully you can find us a jazzy jingle, and this will become a bit of a running theme.
Yeah, I'll play the jingle now, and then you can start.
And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, it's the DraftCast Top 5.
Perfect, very jazzy. I like it a lot, and I'm sure when this goes global, that people will be singing that and playing along to that in their own homes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about singing.
So this week, my top 5 is top 5 unexpected successes of the year, and that's in terms of some of the players that we've picked and are in our teams, in an attempt to keep it positive and celebrate the positives of what's going on in the league, and perhaps a few players that have left us with egg on our faces, maybe, that weren't revered at the start of the year. So, coming in at number 5, we've got one of my superstars of the year, Mr. Thomas Souček. He's big, he scores goals, he loves potato salad, and he's been a key, integral part of West Ham having a good season this year. It's fair to say that he did sort of show glimpses of what he could do last year when we got signed in January, but I don't think anyone really expected him to be part of a team fighting for the top 4 or 5. And he's currently sits in 25th position in terms of points, having been drafted 76th. And he played a big part in Morris's team being very successful over the Christmas period, is where he was bagging lots of goals. And that was a mainstay of Will's team doing really well. So hence he makes an appearance in the top 5.
Okay.
So down to number 4. We've got a familiar face who was almost a bit of a laughing stock at the start of the year, who didn't perhaps give the impression, or his manager didn't give the impression, that he was going to feature a great deal, and he actually didn't play a massive amount at the start of the year. Hence why his overall points rank is a little bit lower than you might expect, given that he's made this prestigious top 5 list. But he has, in recent weeks, come up with 2 massive game weeks, which have been pretty pivotal in Team Row's rise to the top. So he had a game week of 21 points, where he got his King of the Game Week award, as you can see there. And he's had another game week in double figures since, where he's again got on the score sheet. So he's made the list partly due to, I guess, his return to form, but equally because of his impact on our current league leader,
Yep.
who can probably put a bit of his success down to John Stones. And sorry, last point on John Stones is that he actually went undrafted. Nobody picked him up, I think, because of the hesitancy to think that he would actually play. So it might make a few chuckle to see now that Nathan Ake was drafted and John Stones was not, which seems daft now, given that he's almost a certainty to start at the Euros for England as well.
Yeah.
So we move into our top 3, and a theme might start to occur here. I've got certain selfish reasons to pick Stuart Dallas, as we've already mentioned. He's upset the odds a few times and upset me this week, but overall he's been an unreal pickup for someone who in truth, is just quite an average utility player, sort of a James Milner light. He can play left back, attacking midfield, centre midfield, just about anywhere you want, and has got an incredible knack of picking up assists and goals. Partly because he plays in a Leeds side who just don't stop running, and he seems to be maybe the fittest of the bunch and acts as a bit of a linchpin. So he's always on the pitch at the end of games when it's getting a bit open. So he's always likely to pop up with a goal or an assist. And hence he's won the King of the Game Week award twice for those big scoring efforts. And again, has gone undrafted because at the start of the year looked like he was, again, just an average utility player. So bit of Bielsa ball has meant that Stuart Dallas has been my top scorer actually this year, which I don't think many would have predicted at the start of the year. Hence his position at number 3 in this top 5 list. And so moving to the top 2, now this is someone who, although he was drafted, he was very much drafted as a backup. While it pains me to put an Aston Villa player in here, he's been a bit of a revelation since he went there. And is incredibly 6th on the list of points scored by any player, that's pretty mad, I think.
For a keeper as well.
Yeah, exactly. At the start of the year, even if you'd have asked us which keepers would have been on that list, you might have thought Alisson or Edison for clean sheets, or maybe Nick Pope for all the saves that he makes and a few clean sheets. But Villa's defensive performance at the start of the year was brilliant. I think he saved a couple of penalties. And just generally, he's in there for bonus points because he makes a lot of saves. So yeah, he's absolutely shocked us all, and been a bit of a diamond in the rough again, I think, for Morris's team. But it wouldn't be right really to finish with number 1 and not be looking at a player who is currently sat top of the league. Patrick Bamford, currently playing for Team Rowe. He is the 5th in terms of points for the whole season, and I for one thought he would absolutely sink at Premier League level. I foolishly picked Sebastian Haller over Patrick Bamford, and yeah, I know.
You want to be careful saying stuff like that on air. It's going to get you in trouble.
Remarkable, but he's come good. He's scored goals again, similar to Stuart Dallas there. Up and down sort of basketball style of play means that he gets a fair amount of opportunities, and as a result has scored absolutely bags of goals, including a hat-trick at Villa Park, I think, which obviously didn't go very well with a lot of our patrons. But yeah, I just think a lot of us probably raised an eyebrow at this pick on draft night, because basically there was just no other forwards left, and so Bamford got picked up, and given that he's been King of the Game Week twice, which is very impressive, he's a big part, I think, of why Team Rowe is at the top, because he's provided points fairly consistently. So Patrick Bamford concludes this week's top 5 of perhaps unexpected success stories, and we shall see if any more sort of surface throughout the rest of the year. Yeah,
I love it. Great work, George.
Thank you very much. Nice, short and sweet, and hopefully our trend of top 5s takes off.
Definitely. I'm trying to work out whether to open this up to other managers or make it an exclusive thing for you the next time you're on the pod.
Well, I mean, certainly I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it personally. Maybe even if separate to the pod, everyone had a go at a top 5 on the Instagram page, whether it be football or draft related or not. Just a little top 5 tidbit on the Instagram page. Yeah, definitely. I think we should. Well, we don't have to do it every time, but sometimes we can try and get people voting for the top 5. At least put down, give the 5 options, and then let people vote on the order, and then we get the order from that. But yeah, no, it's lots of potential. I like it. So there you go.
Great. Thank you very much. That rounds us up for the podcast this week. Nice, short and sweet. And yeah, we look forward to the next week. You've already given me who you think's going to win the Pokal Cup, so there's a couple of weeks to go until that final.
Yeah, but I'd actually say probably this week, in terms of who I think is gonna bounce back, I would have to pin my colours to the Will Morris train, because I think Harry Kane on a double game week is bound to get some goals. So we could see the return of Morris, and I think we'd all love to see footage of Tolly eating his words. So
yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we'll round it up there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Please remember to subscribe and like the video. Leave a comment down below what top 5 you think we should do next. And we'll leave it as always. This is the DraftCast. And remember, draft is life. See you next time.